We're staying in our hatching_gradients.dwg file, and I've left it in the same position as it was at the end of the last video, where we were kind of overviewing what we've done already with our hatching and our gradient fill on the tables in the conference room. Now, what we need to look at now is how do we edit our hatches and our gradients? Well, it's actually really easy. On the hatch, you just hover over it. It highlights like so, you double click on it. And you'll notice that it has a central grip as well. You'll see that hatches now have this circular grip, and you can change the origin point, the hatch angle, the hatch scale, just by hovering over the menu. You'll also notice that quick properties kicks in when you double click on a hatch as well. We don't actually need that at the moment, so we can turn that off. However, we can see all of the properties now in the hatch editor in the ribbon at the top of the screen. So we might want to change the hatch pattern. So if I change that to ANSI 32, you can see it's a very different pattern there in our table. You can see in our table polyline, it's changed quite dramatically. Now I can change the origin as well. I can set the origin here. So if I click on set origin like so, I now pick a point where that origin's going to be. And what will happen is if I pick that endpoint there, just watch, can you see the hatch now starts from that endpoint? And what I've done there is just change the origin so that the hatching fills the object slightly differently. And then all I do is close the hatch editor, job done. Now it's the same with the gradients as well. You hover over the gradient, can you see the change in color when it highlights? When you see that change in color, when it kind of goes a bit gray, a bit murky, double click on it. And again, the quick properties kicks in, which we don't actually need. We'll close that for the moment. And you'll see that a gradient fill also has that central grip there. So you can stretch it, you can change the hatch angle. Now, when you think about it, there's not much of an angle to this gradient fill, or is there? Let's change the angle and see what happens. I can change the hatch angle here, like so. I'm going to change it to 45 degrees and press enter. And do you notice there the color changes slightly? If I close the hatch editor now, it's hatching across the object like that. So the gradient fill is going across the object. So if I come back in again, like so, and what we'll do is, again, you can change the angle up here on the ribbon. Just double click there. Let's change it to something random like 133 and press enter. And again, can you see the way the gradient changes position within the object? So let's just change that back to 0. Take it back to its default setting like so. And we can close the hatch editor. Now, I'm just going to zoom out slightly so that we can see both the hatch and the gradient. One of the things that's really important here is that hatching and gradients are both associative. So if I select my hatch here like so, and I click on this grip here, keep an eye on the command line. So if I click on it and I move it and I position it here, you'll notice down on the command line, hatch boundary associativity removed. So what's happened there is your hatch has basically been moved away from the boundary. So the hatch hasn't got a boundary anymore. So there's no associativity. Now, one of the benefits you have with hatches in AutoCAD now is they have grips. So you'll notice there that hatch is selected. I can click on a grip like so. I can right click and move using that grip. I can come back up to this endpoint or intersection here. Endpoint would be best, but there's an intersection there. Click there, and I've put the hatch pattern back into the boundary. If I hit escape now, it doesn't look any different. I can do the same with a gradient as well. I can click on the grip, drag it outside the boundary and click there, and you'll notice again, it's got the outer grips again. So I can select this grip here, right click, move using the grip editing and place it back to where it needs to be. But you'll notice that you lose that hatch associativity when you do that. I'll just hit escape to deselect the gradient. One of the benefits you have there though is you could potentially move a hatch out of a boundary and use it to hatch other boundaries as well. Now, there's a lot of other things with hatching that we could cover here, but what you'll find is if you go into some of the other courses in the library, we do go into hatching in a bit more detail, so you can go and check that out. In the meantime, though, explore the hatch and gradient commands in AutoCAD to discover ways to highlight objects on your AutoCAD drawings.